In Tokyo, under the bright lights of the Ariake Coliseum, history was written in a way that will be remembered not only for the tennis that unfolded, but for the humanity that followed. Carlos Alcaraz, the young Spaniard who has already redefined what it means to be a champion at just 22 years old, lifted the Japan Open trophy with a smile that told more than 1,000 words. But what happened after that victory is what turned a sporting triumph into a story that touched hearts across the world. Alcaraz arrived in Japan carrying the weight of expectation. Every tournament he enters now, fans and analysts ask the same question. Can he keep delivering brilliance day after day? And time after time, he finds an answer that goes beyond just winning. Against Taylor Fritz in the final, Alcaraz showed his full arsenal. His forehand exploded off the strings, his backhand redirected pace with surgical precision, and his movement once again defied the laws of physics. Fritz fought hard, but in just over an hour and a half, the match was sealed. 6-4, 6-4. Another trophy, another statement. But what separates Carlos Alcaraz from many others is not only what he does between the lines. It's what he does the moment the last point is played, when the cameras are still rolling but the pressure is gone. That's when the real Alcaraz shines through. After the final handshake and the official trophy ceremony, Alcaraz turned his attention not to the crowd, not even to the journalists, but to the quiet heroes of the tournament, the ball boys and girls who had spent the week running tirelessly along the sidelines. In a scene that has now gone viral, Alcaraz invited the ball kids to join him during the celebrations. Some were shy, some hesitant, but Alcaraz's energy was irresistible. He clapped for them, shook their hands, shared smiles, and even surprised them with playful gestures as if they too had just won the championship. It wasn't forced. It wasn't staged. It was Carlos Alcaraz being Carlos Alcaraz, someone who never forgets the people who make the game possible. And this moment wasn't out of character. If you've followed Alcaraz long enough, you'll know that kindness is stitched into the fabric of who he is. Just months earlier in Monte Carlo, after a grueling final, Alcaraz had gathered all the tournament's ball kids in the tunnel. Together they laughed, sang, and danced, breaking down the invisible barrier between star athlete and teenage volunteers. It wasn't about publicity. It was about joy, about gratitude, about remembering that tennis is bigger than one player. In Tokyo, the Japanese fans saw this spirit firsthand. The applause grew louder when the ball boys and girls were brought into the spotlight. Parents in the stands beamed with pride as their children shared the stage with one of the greatest players of their generation. The message was clear: champions don't stand above others, they lift others up. Sportsmanship has always been at the heart of tennis, but in the modern era, with its dazzling lights, massive sponsorships, and endless media narratives, it's easy for humility to get lost. That's why Alcaraz's actions stood out. Respect wasn't just a word in his post-match speech, it was a visible act. He didn't rush through the trophy pictures. He didn't leave the stage when the spotlight faded. He stayed, making sure that those ball kids, who spend hours in the sun or under the lights, often unnoticed, felt seen and appreciated. Fans online immediately reacted. Social media lit up with clips of Alcaraz's gestures, captions filled with words like class, humble, and true champion. Former players, commentators, and even rivals acknowledged what they saw. This wasn't just a 22-year-old winning another title. This was a reminder of what the sport should always represent: competition fused with respect, talent paired with humility. And if you think about it, this is the very quality that makes Alcaraz so magnetic. His tennis is extraordinary, yes, but his spirit is even more extraordinary. He plays with the joy of a child, the fight of a warrior, and the respect of a gentleman. When he bows to the crowd, when he thanks the umpires, when he acknowledges the ball kids, he's telling the world that no one wins alone. Every victory is a shared victory. In Japan, this message resonated more deeply because of the culture itself. Japanese fans admire discipline, gratitude, and respect. Seeing Alcaraz embody those values only amplified the bond he created with the local audience. For many in Tokyo that night, the memory wasn't just of the forehands that ripped past Fritz, but of the Spanish champion bending down to thank a young ball boy or sharing a laugh with a girl who nervously held the match balls. These moments were human, intimate, unforgettable. Think of what it means for those kids. For them, this wasn't just another shift on court. This was the night they stood beside Carlos Alcaraz, the world number one, the global superstar, the player who could have basked in his own glory but instead chose to share it. 10, 20 years from now, they'll still remember it. They'll tell their friends, their families, maybe even their own children. And in that way, Alcaraz's gesture becomes something much larger than a trophy photo. It becomes part of people's lives. For Alcaraz, this kind of behavior is not about branding or image. If anything, it's instinctive. Those who know him from his hometown in Murcia often describe him as grounded, unchanged despite fame. Coaches say he never forgets to thank those who help him, from stringers to physios. And that attitude shines through in moments like Tokyo, where the easiest thing would have been to smile, wave, and walk off stage. But Carlos chose the harder, more meaningful path, to share. And isn't that the essence of sport? To inspire, to connect, to create memories that outlast statistics and scorelines? Yes, the record books will show that Carlos Alcaraz defeated Taylor Fritz 6-4, 6-4 to win the 2025 Japan Open. But for those who were there, for those who watched the clips, the real story is what happened after. The respect he showed to all, the kindness he gave to the ball boys and girls, and the reminder that greatness is measured not only by titles, but by character. As the cameras faded and the celebrations wound down, Alcaraz's actions left a lingering glow. A champion walked away that night, but he left behind something much more valuable than a trophy. He left behind a lesson. That respect never goes out of style. That no one is too big to show gratitude. That true greatness is not about how high you climb, but how many people you bring with you along the way. And so, as the sun rose over Tokyo the next morning, the headlines spoke of a victory. But in the hearts of fans, the story was about respect, humility, and joy. Carlos Alcaraz gave us all a reminder that sport, at its best, is about lifting others as much as lifting yourself. And in that sense, his triumph in Japan was more than a win. It was a gift.